I joined the police department in 1969. I went to the Investigations Detective Bureau in about 1972, 73. And they weren't here then. When they came in 1975, I was in Vice and Intelligence. Got involved in immediately. It wasn't my sole assignment, but immediately we got involved with the Front Group United Churches of Florida, all that fraud, well, not fraud, misrepresentation on how they came to Clearwater in the first place. At that time, the mayor was, I think, Mayor Gazarza. And he was very concerned about who they were and what they were. Unfortunately for the city of Clearwater, Hubbard was debating between Daytona Beach and here. And he picked Clearwater because clear. And he wanted to make this a Scientology city. After it was discovered that who they were, Gabe, of course, was at the forefront of asking questions, why the deception? And consequently, Gabe had a lot of influence, and people were very upset. The people of the community had a genuine concern about having a cult in their neighborhood. At that time, they were very concerned about it, and Gabe held a couple of rallies to try to force a hand here and exactly exposing who they were and what they were up to and their practices. And now we're getting close to the time of the burglaries in Washington, D.C. of government offices. We're getting very close to that particular time. This was all coming down one time, and when Gabe held the rallies, many people attended. There was a real concern. It filled a stadium of 7, 8, 10,000 people. After Gabe's initial questioning about Scientology and the harmful effects of what they do, there was a commissioner named Richard Tenney that took up the banner. Unfortunately for us, Richard turned out not to be a very honest person anyway. But he also had held many rallies. And at one time, this community was very interested in them, and there was a lot of people interested in who they are and why a cult was in our neighborhood. In fact, bumper stickers were quite prevalent. Stamp out Scientology. There were hundreds and hundreds of them on many cars. You could go by there and honk the horn at them. But that all died when nothing happened. When not a thing happened. Mr. Russell, the prosecutor of this circuit, had a grand jury for a while. Nothing happened. Investigations all came to nothing. No one would pursue it. And the public kind of got used to it. Well, they're here. Although I must confess, the general overall attitude is, of the public is, particularly people who have been here for a while, it's not a good thing for the city of Clearwater. It's the downtown's dying, and one of the main reasons, no matter what face they put on it, is because the tax base is eroding, and no one wants to establish a business down there and cater to Scientologists.
When the rallies happened, what was Scientology's response? How did they react?
These nuclear scientists had their own rallies at the time. And of course, they filed various petitions and discrimination petitions, but they even dressed up as Nazis and picketed the newspapers, which I thought was really a dumb move to make. But they conducted let me put it this way, counter rallies of their own and started with Scientologists, which came to nothing. Clearwater was getting to be a demonstration USA. When they came to light, they were breaking into government offices and stealing files and redacting and replacing files. We became very interested in that, particularly when some of the operatives had Clearwater connections. I mean, this purportedly, by their own literature magazine, was the worldwide training headquarters now. And we had a very deep concern about what they were up to. Were they infiltrating the police department? Did they infiltrate the state's attorney's office? In fact, they did infiltrate the state's attorney's office. 2 lawyers named Merrill Veneer and his wife got jobs there. God only knows what files they looked at and heard what kind of deals that were made. Not necessarily involving Scientology, but they certainly had a chance to listen to all the dirty linen. Yeah, we're really naive, honest to God naive as a government and as elected officials and as police officers and police departments and as prosecutors. We're just naive. Now, who would envision that you have this criminal organization comes to town that infiltrates the FBI, that infiltrates IRS and infiltrates prosecution's office, that sets up a local federal judge on a boat to try to provide prostitutes, and this was all big news, and it hit like a ton of bricks. This doesn't happen here in Pinellas County, Florida. It only happens in New York and Chicago and places like that, and we all of a sudden threw into the big leagues. First of all, we weren't really equipped for them. We were not equipped for these people at all.
How many people were assigned to deal with investigating this?
Well, originally it was me and one other guy in Vice Intelligence, and then ultimately was a task force with members from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, and the State's Attorney's Office. But I'm speaking solely and totally on my behalf. There wasn't a real hard interest in it at all. No one seemed to be, except for the city of Clearwater and for yours truly, because, you know, all of the properties are in the city of Clearwater. And there was always a consensus, like you say, you have to know the political atmosphere here, but we're talking about elected officials and prosecuting or persecuting, prosecuting Scientologists made no impact on the constitutional officer here, whether he did it or not. No one cared. The first stop is going to be a motel. It's a converted motel on US 19. Actually, this one's in the county. It's not in the city of Clearwater. They used to house mostly families with children. This is their property here. I gotta turn around here. Right here. See, this is, to get a quick shot of that. And let me explain what this place is. They bought this old motel, and many years ago, it's gotta be 20, 25 years ago, they housed some children in there, what would be in the vernacular dependent family, you know. And one time during the early 80s, it was really a pigsty. Several years ago, they got in a lot of trouble with the public health people because it was a pigsty. Yeah. Just a little pigsty. And the kids were running around unsupervised, and, you know, the little kids with dirty diapers for days on end and things along that line. And so they went, and they almost closed them down, but they made it clean it up. And since that time, the state statute in the state of Florida has changed somewhat to give religious institutions and churches some exemptions. And guess what?
Yeah.
That's one of the first, besides the Fort Harrison, one of the first purchases that they made. This is part of their school system, the Delphi Academy. And they own this building, and I believe the one next door to it. And there's also a bona fide elementary school here, not a bona fide, a state elementary school, Skycrest Elementary. But here's where the kids go to school. There's another one further on down the line, too. Now, these are supposedly sanctioned by the state of Florida. They require an educational criteria. Just what that is, I don't know, what the criteria is. But it has to have so many units of English, so many units of history. But once again, the state law is very broad when it comes to a religious institution. Education is supposed to be a system of questions and answers and a free exchange of ideas, even right down on the elementary level. And I just don't know how the two mesh together with teaching Scientology courses that are so rigid without question, and then a logical course at the same time. I don't know how you could do that. These are 3 motels in a row that they own, and that's for housing. But you know, they don't have many people in there. See, as you can see, no cars, and there never is. A couple of these, I can't remember which 2 were in pretty sad shape, actually.
Yeah.
Paint was peeling, you know, and they did paint them up and fix them up. But they must have plans for them.
Now, recently something's happened with all of your police files. What was that situation?
Well, that's kind of a murky situation as far as I'm able to understand. The city came to some sort of settlement agreement with Scientology about those files. I've always been curious. Well, I haven't been curious. I think I know, but I have to answer in an egotistical way, I suppose, at some point. I must have hurt them bad because they originally wanted them open. They petitioned like crazy to get them open so they could look at them. And St. Pete Times finally got them open. Once Scientology saw what was in them, they want them closed. There comes tough cases once in a while, and this Scientology happens to be a real tough case. Maybe the toughest you ever face in your life. But that's your job. And if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen.